Hey everyone, it's Justine. Welcome back to the 12 Days of Christmas 2017 Day 4. Today's video is sponsored by Concord and 9th, and I will, as always, announce the giveaway at the end of the video. So we are going to get started using a super cool new stamp set from Concord and 9th in order to create plaid backgrounds. This is a must-have, and you could use it, of course, for any occasion, not just Christmas. Now I'm going to show you how to make bulk backgrounds so you could make these in bulk. I'm going to be using various colors though, so of course you can switch it up just like I do. Now I am going to be stamping the first layer using black, and I am going to do this on all 3 of my cards. Of course you could also do tone on tone by stamping red on red or green on green, but I like the contrast of black. Now for this video I am using VersaFine black onyx ink. I would suggest you not use a pigment-based ink because it takes way too long to dry. So if you are doing this and you don't want to follow my advice, then you may have some stray embossing powder later. So I would recommend using a dye-based ink, whichever one you have in your stash, whether it's Simon Says Stamp, My Favorite Things, Catherine Pooler, it doesn't matter. Just not a pigment-based. So as you can see, it creates these solid squares, and then it also creates sort of a lighter version of it. So you get 2 different colors on there, and then the color of your cardstock is going to be that 3rd color, of course. And because I have the MISTI, I'm going to stamp it more than once. I've only used the stamp a couple of times, so that's why it's not stamping exactly solid right now, but I actually think it's doing pretty well considering. Now for time purposes, I'm going to speed you up for these 2 since I'm doing the same thing each time. This is how you make bulk cards. You make a production line and you do as many as you need to do all at once. So you do all your stamping first, then all your embossing second, and it makes things so much quicker and so much easier. So I'm going to be using 3 different colors today. I am using 3 colors from Gina K Designs for the cardstock. I'm using Christmas Pine, Cherry Red, and I am also using white, of course, and these 3 backgrounds are going to be fabulous. Now for me personally, if I was going to be creating 20, 30, 40 cards, I would actually stop here with the background. But because I'm not, and I'm creating this video and I want to have some fun, I'm going to add these. Now Concord and 9th, I swear, they're the most genius for stamps as far as unique stamps goes. They are one of my favorite companies there is. I always have videos with their products because I absolutely love them. And one of the things I love about this is that they created lines for the for the plaid. So I'm going to be using a VersaFine ink to stamp these so I can emboss them later. And the greatest thing is they didn't include 1 line, they included 2. I don't know about you, but if you've ever tried to actually stamp a 1 single line stamp, it will drive you bonkers. It's never straight, it never sticks to the block, so having these 2 with the spacer in the middle, not only does it in double time, but it is genius. It's so easy to stick on your block or your MISTI tool, and it's awesome. So you can see here I'm using the MISTI and I'm stamping it 3 times on all 3 of the paper, and then I'm going in, moving the stamp, and stamping it the next time. Me personally, I think a block may be quicker if you have a block this size to just go ahead, but if you want that perfection or you don't stamp straight, then the MISTI is definitely what you want to be using right now for your mass production. Once again, I'm going to speed you up for time purposes. So once you're finished stamping up all of these 3 on the vertical lines, then you're going to go ahead and you can do the horizontal lines as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this last little line here. You could take it or leave it, to be honest with you. My plan originally was to cut these down using a stitched rectangle die, and then I forgot. So you could actually skip that if you're going to cut down the base a little bit more. That'll save you even more time when creating your bulk cards. So I'm going ahead and doing the horizontal lines now, and it's the exact same thing. So I'm going right down my card and I'm doing all 3 at the same time. So once again, if you're doing bulk cards for this, you could have stopped before adding these lines, or of course you can add these lines. But remember, you're going to need as many card panels like these as you need cards. So if you're making 60 cards, you're going to need 60 of these card bases, and you're going to be doing this 60 times per step. So you have to judge how much time you want to put into this. Now I'm going to cover these in some embossing powder. Now if I had used dye-based ink, my embossing powder would not have stuck everywhere like it is right now. I ended up having to go in and clean them with a dry paintbrush. So once again, be sure to use dye-based ink, because I actually even heat set this pigment ink and it's still stuck kind of everywhere. So that was fine. I went ahead with a dry paintbrush and I actually got everything out of the squares, and sometimes it got a little bit messy, but you know what, I kind of liked it more in the end that it wasn't perfect. So I did silver embossing powder in superfine detail by Ranger for the green background. I used gold for the red background, and I used silver as well for the white and black background. Now I'm going to go ahead and just cut down some cardstock and die cut this gorgeous die here that is sort of meant to coordinate with the stamp, but it could definitely function on its own, called the Ribbon Banner die. And I love this because it coordinates with a bunch of the stamps from their new Turnabout stamp as well. Or you could always manipulate your stamps to fit into that banner. It's completely up to you, and that's the beauty of clear stamps, is you can actually make them go into a wavy form instead of having them straight. Now, I personally don't like to make my life simple, so I actually wanted to add some more silver and gold to my card. So I wanted to die cut this ribbon banner die in white to do my stamping on, and then in gold or silver to frame it. So I needed the same silver and the same gold as the stripes on my card. So I'm making my own silver and gold paper. And the way I do that is I add my Versamark ink to some blank sheets of white paper. I'm going to pour embossing powder all over them, and then I'm going to heat emboss them so that I make my own paper. So I made 2 silver and 1 gold because that was what I was actually planning on putting the cards for. So I'm actually going to do all my heating now. So that's why I didn't show you before heat embossing the stripes, because as I said, bulk cards go in steps. So it's important to do all of your stamping first, all of your die cutting next, then all of your heat embossing, and then that way it speeds up production. Alright, as I'm finishing up my heat embossing, I just wanted to mention that Concord and 9th was so generous. They sent me their whole release for October, so you have to go check it out and add anything to the cart that you might like, because I am going to be making a bunch more videos after the series is over with their Christmas stamps. So if you need more ideas, I'm going to have more videos, which I don't usually do, but they're amazing. So now all the die cutting. Mass production says step by step. So I again die cut these 3 embossed panels, so 2 silver and 1 gold. And then I went ahead and die cut this 3 times in white paper. So in the end I ended up with 6 of these banners, 3 white, 2 silver, and 1 gold. Okay, so once I'm finished all of that, then I have these really beautiful intricate banners here, and I'm going to be using from the Christmas Turnabout stamp, which is super awesome. I'm going to be stamping. So I put the words on top of the ribbon banner, and I picked them up using a block. I found this to be easiest because it's an odd shape, so the MISTI wouldn't be the best tool, in my opinion, to use for this type of stamping. So I attached these to a block, and we're doing things the old-fashioned way, and these are already in the diagonal for you in sort of the wavy shape. But of course you could use any sentiment and just wave your stamp or make it into a wave and stick it onto a block. It'll work as well. Alright, we are nearing the end, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be attaching these embossed panels onto the front of my card panels here. And then I'm going to be adding and layering the white one on top. So you have a kind of like an 1/8 of an inch of the embossed panel here sticking out on the sides. And it just makes that white piece pop. It ties in the gold and the silver embossing into the sentiment. And I think it just really makes the lines actually pop on the front of the card. Then I just need to attach them to my card bases and we call it a day, except for, of course, adding some Nuvo drops, because I really cannot honestly make a card without embellishing with Nuvo drops these days. So I'm using some Tombow Mono liquid adhesive and I'm gluing the panel onto the back. You can actually see that I had stamped these once before and I wasn't too happy with the results, so I was really happy after I seasoned my stamp, which means I stamped it a few times, then it stamps way more solid. That's the thing with solid stamps. You need to stamp them a few times before you use them on your good copies. It's almost like you have to do rough copies like back in school and then do your good copies. Stamping it 3-4 times on a spare sheet of paper will definitely help and get you a more solid impression because it gets off that manufacturer's residue. So I'm gluing these all down onto the card panels. I love the way the white frame of my card base just creates that frame around the card and ties everything in. It makes that sentiment pop and not get lost in the background. Lastly, I wanted to do some Nuvo drops as I mentioned, so I'm going to be using various colors. Here I'm using a silver glitter. I use some autumn red on the right card, and then I'm using some ivory seashell here onto the red background, and I'll set those off to dry. I so hope you enjoyed today's card tutorial today. Concord and 9th has been so generous in sponsoring a $25 gift certificate. You can win by commenting here on my YouTube channel and heading to my blog. In the video description. There are several other ways you can gain entries, so be sure to enter there. It's the most important. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you're interested in subscribing to my channel at all, you can click over there on the right. Or if you missed a video or you need some more Christmas ideas, I put all of my Christmas tutorials in one playlist where you can find them all. So if you're bored, go ahead and watch them straight through. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 5.